Hello and welcome to a very special How I Paint Things. Now today we're going to tackle Hive Fleet Kraken as quickly as possible. If you're looking at speed painting a Tyranid army, I don't think you can really miss these guys. Kraken, they're awesome. And on top of that, they have a very distinctive colour scheme. Nice and quick to paint, and actually fairly simple to add some neat little details as we go. So, without any mucking around, paints will be linked in the description below. Let's look at how you can get this started. So to begin, I've primed our little gribbly with skeleton bone spray from Army Painter. Now if you can't get your hands on this, or you prefer to use Citadel stuff, what you can do is just prime it with Corax white, and then hit it with a couple of coats of Ushabti bone. It's not too difficult. The colour is so similar, it doesn't matter, alright? For the purposes of speed painting our little Tyranids, this is fine. Now an optional step, you can choose, alright, normally with speed painting it's all completely set in stone, but you can choose whether or not you want to go to rack white for a dry brush. Now I'm going to do this because I think it's going to add a fair bit to our model, just give it a little bit more sort of shading and depth. And I'm going to use rack white over Praxcity white, because the latter is more of a pure white, where rack white has just a little bit of kind of a peachy tone to it. So let's just prep my brush up, and you do not need to be particularly careful with this at all. You'll notice, I mean you might barely see that going on the camera, but you can be quite generous with it to be honest. And just get a little bit of texture on the skin stuff. Now with that done, we've got a little bit more depth on our miniature, and we'll grab our Mephiston red, just water it down a little bit on your palette, and start filling in all of the carapace areas. If you do have any whoops moments, just hit it with a little bit of Rakarth flesh, and then you can go over with Ushabti bone and fix that up again. It's not too difficult to fix. If there is a time-consuming part, it's probably this bit. Now one of the best things about Hive Fleet Kraken from the perspective of a speed painter is just how much of it is the same colour. All of the hooves and sort of claws and what have you, same colour as a carapace, same colour as a gun casing, simple. So it might seem, while you're painting this, that this is taking, this step takes a while, but because you aren't changing colours all the time and you can just stick to the same brush and across the whole model, it's actually a lot quicker. So now I've got my shade brush. You could even go for a bigger brush if you wanted to, my Seraphim sepia, and let's just go crazy. So make sure you aren't letting it pull too much in any of the recesses, but take your time, go around the whole bottle, and shade her in with your Seraphim sepia. After about half an hour, or you just pop them on the radiator for a few minutes, this is what we've got, and I don't know, looks pretty Hive Fleet Kraken to me. It is the easiest of all of the Hive Fleets to paint, and depending on how quickly you want to get it on the table, you might even call it there. So what I'm going to do is very quickly pop a base on them, and I'll show you what this looks like based. We'll put it in context. So then with a super quick base done, there he is. Now I have still not cracked the 10-minute mark on painting this guy, even with the base. So I think we can afford to splash out a little and do some more on him. Now, if you are painting for spectacle and you want to put, 30 to 80 of these little monsters down, you can call that done. If anyone wants to complain about how they're painted, they've got the wrong priority when facing a Tyranid army, I can tell you that much. But I've got here a little Uriel yellow, or Ariel yellow, and my small layer brush. Let's get in and just do a little more here. So starting off, we're just going to do this little eye on his weapon. Doesn't take much. We're using a nice bright base coat after all. You may even find you want to use Bad Moon's yellow if you want more contrast. And then I'm going to attack him from this angle so I can get to the eye. Blip. There we go. I'll just do the other side quickly. And then we'll get just a little white and we will fill in his teeth. Now ordinarily I wouldn't use straight white on a Tyranid. I would probably do something, maybe a flayed one's flesh or something. But in this case, because there's so much beige on him already, I kind of want that extra contrast. I want the teeth to stand out that little bit. Now, anywhere that you want to be kind of fleshy and gross, like toxin sacs or feeder tentacles on Genestealers, for example, just get a little caribou crimson, and you can very quickly paint this in with just a medium layer brush, and that'll give you enough contrast. Easy as that. That looks a little bit more gross. So this is a good way to add a little more detail to your bigger gribblies that you want to have, a bit more detail to them. Because it doesn't take particularly long to do, you can do this quite happily on all of your troops. If you want to get really fancy, you can start painting it into, these little bits here and there. I would not probably do this on, my basic infantry, but it does look pretty cool. And it's a nice way to just buff out a little bit of the color scheme on your larger monsters. Then finally grab yourself a little kindle flame and a small dry brush. Now what I'm going to do is start close to the skin and drag up and away in the direction so that I'm going against the detail. So I'm just going to catch the edges there on the carapace. You can be fairly sparing with this because it's quite a sharp highlight really. But this is just a quick way to get a little bit more depth to that carapace. Nice and simple. Now, take your time with this because you are going to be passing close to areas that you have already painted. And as with all dry brushing, start with less paint on your brush than you think you're going to need because you can go back over to build up color. But if you make a mistake, you put too much on, you've got to start that whole layer again. So be sparing with it and see how it turns out. And there we have it. With those 2 extra steps added on, we've cracked the 12-minute mark. And honestly, I think that's looking pretty cool. If you want to put down a whole army looking like that, I think your opponent is going to be rightfully terrified of what is coming their way. Hive Fleet Kraken, man, they are the way to go. So hopefully, guys, something there was interesting to you. Like I said, some of you old hands might have come across this before, but maybe you haven't. And if you're looking for a method to get these little gribblies out on the table as quickly as possible, I don't think you can pass this up. So feel free to drop a comment in the old box below. My Twitter and Facebook are both linked there too, with a reminder I'm normally a little bit more active on the Twitter. So thank you very much for your time. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.